We got fun little single game appetizers yesterday with Dallas and Philadelphia, today with the game in Brazil, but it's time for the main course, the week 1 main slate. And I'm going to do what I've done for over a year now. I think 2 years. I don't know. We're doing the week 1 must plays where I'm going to go through kind of similar to the showdown video we did yesterday. We're going to compare projections from Stochastic, from ETR. We'll look at ownership as well, identify what their must plays are. We're going to talk about that ownership. We're going to run some optimizer on the solver, see what ETR's data thinks are the chalk plays, the cash game plays for the weekend. We'll hop over to Stochastic, run a sim as well. In addition to that, solver sim will do. By the end of this video, you know the must plays and my splash plays for week 1. It is exciting times here. Besides the guy in the thumbnail, Christian McCaffrey, he's hurt again. So we'll see how that goes. We got to look at the projections. Let me make sure we're filtering just for the main slate here because we got a lot of slates coming up. But it's a weird week because Christian McCaffrey projected to be mega chalk. And now it seems like that won't be the case, at least to the same extent. He was limited in practice yesterday if you missed the calf injury, perhaps the same calf injury as last year. It's unclear how serious things are right now. But limited could just be a veteran rest thing, could just be making sure that he is safe and ready to go when you want him to. But definitely comes with more risk than it would have for a field that was very excited to play Christian McCaffrey based on the content I've seen this week, the data out there. There's going to be a lot of McCaffrey involved. But right now, let's look at the projections here. And shouts to Robert Griffin III. Shouts to the chat as well. It's that time of year where we all feel like we're going to be millionaires at $12.59 on Sunday. But realize we're staying broke by 110. Missing out on the first long touchdown that occurs is always a tough when you see your money go to zero on a main slate. But yes, that is the world of football here, not best ball. It's a world of regular weekly NFL DFS. And we're going to brave it as best we can. And of course, if you want to support the show, as always, make sure to check out Stochastic, 15% off link down below. Even if you take one of their promos, click the link below, then take the promo. That way I get attribution for it because it does help the show out quite a bit. The top projected players, proud day for me, proud papa here. I have my own son and I have my larger blacker son, Jaden Daniels, 21.95 fantasy points. He is your number 1 projected player on the week. Matchup versus the Giants as well. We're Washington. Their team total is, I think, 25 and change. Let's see if that moved. Yeah, 25.8 implied points. Malik Neighbors going to be going this game as well. If it matters for you, narrative stuff. Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors do have some healthy competition amongst themselves. Last year, they had a bet for that was publicly taken away. I'm sure they still bet some money on it. But who's going to be Rookie of the Year? We know who won that. Our boy Jaden, of course. That said, for this year, Jaden Daniels coming back in, opening the season with the matchup against his former LSU buddy. That probably helps him out even more, pushing the upside. The lack of running back depth as well in that room. I guess there's depth, but lack of real running back quality / proven bell cow backs. It has been Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt running with the second up in drills, I believe is the best way to look at it right now, that normally tells you your running back depth charts. But it's been Austin Eckler. It's been JCM involved. You'll have Debo getting some touches. Still might see McNichols, Chris Rodriguez in the mix as well. But Jaden Daniels probably just absorbs more of the overall rushing opportunity because of the fact that RB room is so unsolidified. So Jaden, to me, a play I like a lot. I do worry about his chalkiness at 7K, where he's also pretty expensive. But he's your top projected guy, and I'm happy to see it for today. Joe Burrow at number 2, only 0.6 fantasy points behind. I have to imagine some Burrow stacks will get trotted out a good amount. For Cleveland, one thing that stands out to me based on going through the numbers from last year, really not a great pass game defense overall. In fact, they were one of the worst ones relatively on the slate. 0.06 EPA per drop back allowed, 0.07 EPA per pass allowed. And of course, EPA, the expected points added metric that I swear by from Sports Info Solutions, help me digest everything that I see. Of course, thing that I share as well in my weekly data sheet, which we'll be doing a premium video for on YouTube after this video. So if you want to get in, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Splash Play Pod, and you'll see me go through all the data I look at in the actual sheet. And you get a copy of it as well in Excel, which I think is pretty helpful. Has won people like our guy Lateralis 50K a couple seasons ago, or last season, I forget when it was. Either way, though, life blurs together, and data sheets help you make better runs of NFL slates. It's my belief, at least. But Cincinnati, high total this week with 26.3 implied points, one of the highest of the week, slightly less than Philadelphia had yesterday. But Joe Burrow looking good here, stacking him up, looking good. And Robert Griffin III loves the Burrow stacks, so I get it. Look, for Burrow, I think the main thing is that he's a little bit cheaper than Jaden, has more natural correlation. For Jaden to hit his true upside, it's not something where it has to come entirely through the pass game. For Burrow, for the most part, he can run a touchdown here and there. But if he gets there, it's going to be because he largely created outlier production for Jamar Chase, for T. Higgins, down the pike. Maybe your Andre Yoshevitz's, maybe your Mike Gesicki's, maybe your Noah Fant's even. That's certainly a possibility. But Burrow, cleaner stacks for sure. I think a play that'll be popular, though. How popular, we'll see in a moment when we run through some of the optimizer and some of the sim data. Jamar Chase, your top projected receiver, the only guy over 20 fantasy points this week at 20.9. One thing that stands out, which I've talked about a lot on stream, the workload for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, even though talent level is obviously pretty disparate in terms of how Jamar Chase could break a large play, a large touchdown play out of nothing. T. Higgins last year, 9.2 targets a game. Jamar Chase, 10.3. So both really solid workloads. Higgins as well, 2 red zone targets a game compared to 2.1 for Jamar Chase. So these guys functionally have very similar touchdown equity, similar roles. Again, Jamar Chase will score more touchdowns because he's more elusive after the catch, does some better things in terms of just getting out into space. Frankly, even avoid a tackle rate on the cast. They're not that far off with Higgins at 20. Higgins at 18%, Chase at 20.5. So Jamar Chase, I think I'm making a case for a guy I don't have to make a case for. He's 101 in best ball. He's been the most popular player, one of the best receivers, one of the only guys last year to really hit reliably at the position. So Jamar Chase, an easy one. You're not seeking him anybody at 8,100. If you spend that money with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, you're going to have to get creative, have to spend down in other spots. That's the way the slate's going to look, and I'm sure a lot of people will be doing that this week. Christian McCaffrey. So again, limited with the calf injury, cheap price tag is 7,300 on DraftKings, 20.8 projection. Our last guy projected for 20 points on the week. We're going to look at the ownership in a moment, but spoiler alert, McCaffrey is projected to be one of the highest owned guys in the week as well. I believe he and Chase Brown are number 1 and 2, unless that's moved within the last day or so. McCaffrey, the big things that we've talked about all offseason is that when he did come back in last year, his workload is not quite the same as when he was a monster points generator. He only had 2.8 red zone intended touches a game. For comparison, Brian Robinson, a guy who's mostly reviled, got traded for little bits of nothing, basically, from the Commanders. He had 3.3 intended red zone opportunities a game. So McCaffrey's workload last year was not that 5+ he used to get with a really healthy mix of red zone targets, red zone rushes. It was down a lot. And was that because of the calf injury? Was that because they didn't want to risk it? Was that because they had Jordan Mason there, even though Mason was in and out a little bit when we did have McCaffrey coming back in? Those are things that people will say, I think, to defend McCaffrey from what might be the reality is that he might just be a less good player. He was also, the first time that I can recall offhand from the last few years, a negative EPA per rush guy, negative EPA per target guy, a negative 0.08 EPA per rush, negative 0.14 EPA per pass. He's also facing a Seattle team that last year, in year 1 of this Mike McDonald, Baltimore imported defense, they only gave up, which is a good number, negative 0.05 EPA per rush, a little bit softer in the red zone with a plus EPA there at 0.03. But they were a pretty good run defense besides in the red zone. Didn't stuff the run terribly well, but didn't also miss a lot of tackles at 13% there. So they made tackles. They kept the ball in front of them for the most part in the run game. They did what they were supposed to do. I think that for Christian McCaffrey, I don't think it's a great matchup. I'm not sold that he gets the full workload. I do think the trade for Brian Robinson was a bit of a way to keep some workload off McCaffrey. I don't think it was that they were worried about injury, but, at least in that particular moment where they were hiding anything, I think it's a general concern that McCaffrey could go out at any moment, or if, we're going to be a serious Super Bowl contending team. You just want to kind of get him a little bit less work than he's had at his apex. I'm very comfortable fading McCaffrey this week, which could be, a death blow, but the ownership is going to get more reasonable because of the injury. So if you want to play into it, I get it. But my plan this weekend is to not play as much Christian McCaffrey as the field. Try to get underneath on it a little bit more. And that's it. I get the logic. I get people want the better days. The numbers last year don't support the better days being there quite as much. And now we have another injury here limiting him. Unless we hear he's full go today and it was just a precaution. I just don't see wanting to play 1/3 of my lineups with McCaffrey like the field is expected to. Even if it's a quarter of the lineups. It's a lot of McCaffrey out there, given the downside risk and the fact, too, that Seattle could pull ahead in this game and also put, the Niners into more of a passing script. And that would help McCaffrey, too, to some extent in PPR on DraftKings. But I'm not a believer in McCaffrey this week. I feel like he's not exactly the Jamal Williams week 1 chalk from a couple of years ago when it's he's the only Saints back. He's got to do something. He sucks. McCaffrey's still better than that. He'll probably give you 15 to 20 points. But I don't know if he's the thing that wins you $1 million in a million maker. I don't know if he's the thing that wins you the 100K in a play action kind of thing. I'm just not sold on that for the week. So that's how I feel about it. People ask, I never play on FanDuel, but they have the best comps for the Sunday. Well, you're getting money back for it, but I am not playing FanDuel, so I get it. But certainly, you want to use that stochastic data. Again, 15% off. Get your FanDuel stuff in there. It's just not something I'm going to have time for between doing the morning show here at 9 a.m. and doing Live Before Lock. I'm going to be doing my own lineups For DraftKings, then that's it for me. So, but FanDuel does, I think the deal is basically, if you're not familiar, this is totally anecdotal. I haven't looked it up myself, but I believe the thing from our Discord somebody mentioned is that if you play whatever entries in FanDuel, you get it back that same week in FanDuel cash. So basically, if you put in, I don't know, I think it's like $1,000 into the main tournament this week, you would then get that 1,000 back and play it again in week 2. So it's a pretty good deal. FanDuel doing some borderline desperation to keep the DFS product afloat. But if you're playing underdog, it's going to be the same thing on FanDuel. So I get it. Devon Achane at number 5, calf injury for him, but team's not worried about it. Supposedly Achane and Tyreek, despite being limited in practice this week for the Dolphins, should be going. Darren Waller apparently not going to go. Hurt his hip in practice on Thursday. The old man hurt his hip slipping in the shower. That's a tough scene. But Achane, I think, very viable as a pivot to McCaffrey. Similar price points. I think similar upside. The matchup for Achane going against Indianapolis. Look that up real fast. Indianapolis's run defense pretty good as well, negative 0.08 EPA per rush. So we're talking about similarly good to Seattle. Also does bend a little bit more in the red zone where they're giving up a 0.05 EPA per red zone rush, which is actually fairly soft. But Achane, the big thing to me on PPR in particular, the workload he had last year, getting 25% targets per out run. I think that's the main thing you're looking for Achane. So you want that pivot, it's there. But Achane, I think maybe not the most exciting play. I think you get a little bit cheaper, feel good about it. But he's top projected, and we saw yesterday, how much those projections come into play in the showdown, where your top 3, made the winning lineup yesterday. Even though it was a weird Cowboys game script, we could talk about that later. I just thought that was the fucking flukiest Cowboys bullshit in the world. Getting the ball to 50 to score 1 touchdown, getting a 40-yard pass interference to score another touchdown. I still think the Cowboys are ass, but we'll see that in future weeks there. I don't need to... It was a tilting showdown slate, even though I profited. And I actually want to talk about the Solver portfolio tool in a moment, because actually I built my play action entries with that yesterday. I was really happy with the results. But besides that, the game itself, fucking Cowboys, fucking rain delays. Tough scene. Top values right now, according to Stochastic, you've seen the top 5. Top values at QB in particular, Trevor Lawrence, a 3.6x value with his 18.8 projection. Jacksonville, Carolina, 2 defenses that do not look very good in terms of how they played last year. Both positive EPAs per target teams, positive EPA per run teams as well. Let me confirm that before I say that too full-throatedly. Yeah, Carolina last year, one of the worst teams, a team that we would attack a lot as well for game stacks. A 0.16 EPA per dropback, 0.18 EPA per dropback per pass. Really across every split, throws under 20 air yards, throws plus 20 air yards. One of the worst teams in the league, bad in man, bad in zone. Jacksonville's defense sucks. Carolina's defense equally bad, 0.14 EPA per dropback allowed, 0.16 EPA per pass. Even worse than run defense, the 0.12 EPA. This game could shoot out if these teams both are capable of living up to the hype yesterday. I think that's sort of how... I would argue they didn't look halfway decent. I mean, Dak looked better than I would have thought, but if it takes you getting the ball to 50 and getting a 40-yard pass interference to score your 2 touchdowns of the day, I don't think you're a good team. But obviously, it's a Rorschach test. You can interpret whatever you want. The people that like the Cowboys will be more into what they saw yesterday. But once Pickens starts getting some targets, I don't think CeeDee Lamb is getting as much there. And in half PPR, CeeDee Lamb was not so good, but whatever. It's neither here nor there. Drake May at number 2 here, 18.5 fantasy points. Justin Fields, 17.8. So it's all QBs up top. Daniel Jones, Joe Flacco. And this is the thing, too, where I know our pal Robert Griffin III has talked about it with me in the Discord. There's some 3K plays this week. Guys like Torrey Horton, a flat 3K. Of course, best ball brain. People love Torrey Horton because of the fact he's likely your starting outside receiver for Seattle, as much as that means with Cooper Kupp and JSN there. Besides that, though, the value's not really coming up projection-wise for those guys. Even Emeka Egbuka here with a 14.2 projection, only a 3.1x value is $4,600 salary. So people will play, I think Egbuka, people will play a guy, like Torrey Horton more than they probably should, thinking these guys are like smash value plays. And projection-wise, they don't quite seem to be that extent. Ted McMillan as a value at 5,200 seems to be the best case here, the 16.4 projection. And definitely, I would say, based on just how the target share and all that will work, seems like something where he's got to benefit from Coker being not there, Thielen being gone. There's more targets to go around for McMillan than he would have had otherwise. So I definitely feel pretty good about Tet in this projection here as the only guy, just outside the top 5 with a value projection this high that's not a QB. Let's go to ownership, though. And thank you, Billy, especially when you run the DFS optimizer. Yes, I know you want to see lineups. We'll get to it in a moment. We got a process here. But if you guys appreciate this content, please just show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe. Goes a long way for me here. Just one guy fighting the YouTube algorithm on a weekly basis with live content, which YouTube also hates. But this is the way that I like to do things. I like to pre-record and edit. I just hop in and do it. So please subscribe. Hit the like button down below. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Twitter as well, hit the like button, follow button there. Of course, this year, my content flowing for freely, both through YouTube and Twitter at SplashPlayPod on both. If you want to support the show, join the YouTube channel, join the Discord. That'll also give you access to my premium video after this one and my data sheet, which is really the most important part of my process and has been for years. And I appreciate that, Stump. Thank you. Even if you're a Dallas guy, you want to see Dallas be good, I appreciate it. No, just a Dallas thing, man. Just fucking really thought I had that right, and I feel like the results were so close there. I also had a lineup yesterday that was at one point top 7 and unduped, and that was all because of the solver stuff. So I'm excited to show you guys the solver in a moment too. Christian McCaffrey, top projected known player. This has not been updated today. This is 15 hours ago. So it might not reflect McCaffrey being banged up. I still think, and people with that Q tag on DraftKings, much like we talked about all best ball season, they will play McCaffrey less if he is, banged up going into the weekend. If he's a game time decision, like it's going to drive the ownership down a little bit. That said, I think people have been locking in, mentally preparing to play McCaffrey for months now. People, I think even Mike Leone, who I would say data-wise, unflinchingly sharp in terms of like being locked into the data and not deviating from it in a dumb way. He was excited to play McCaffrey. Week 1 was like, if you're going to play him, this is the time to play him in one of the ETR week 1 DFS preview videos. I think he still gets played an incredible amount here. I agree with Spurious News' take here. Seems like no one cares about the CMC calf news. I mean, I think people care because like there are a lot of people, I think, immediately doom scrolling in their mind to last year. And the fact it was an ambiguous calf injury, literally the same situation where it was thought he was going to play, then he was Q tagged with the calf heading up into the game time, ended up being a game time decision, didn't play, and then that started the whole thing of him not playing to start the year. I don't know that it happens that exact same way. I don't want to pattern match that because that's what occurred last year. But any sort of late-breaking limited injury, same thing for Christian Kirk, who had his hamstring, then he's out for a couple of weeks. Darren Waller, limited late, now he's not going to play. It's never a great sign. So I believe there's reason to be cautious of McCaffrey because of the game script and all that. But the fact that you're now getting a guy who's probably a Q tag that people still play a little bit too much, I don't know, man. I really don't want McCaffrey at 32% expected ownership here. I don't want him if it comes down to 25. I just think it's a really big number, even though the price tag makes sense at 7,300. I just think there's a lot of RB plays in the slate. You have pretty much every team in action. I don't think you have to play McCaffrey this week. Devon Achane's moved up in ownership, so he is now not really a less zone pivot. 24% ownership for him. I feel like people have been equally concerned about Achane's calf and the fact that's been dragging on for a few weeks. Again, people pattern matching to last year with McCaffrey on that. That said, Achane at 24%, I think he's a solid play. If you want to be with the field and these guys, I get it. But for me, a lot of the approach this year is going to be trying to fade some of the plays that I don't know, that I don't feel as strongly about than the markets do, and play more into stuff that I feel a little bit more confident in. Relative to projection still. And, Achane projects well. McCaffrey projects well. You just saw these guys are both top 5 projected players. They are going to be very highly owned for a reason, at least in stochastic data. Oh, am I not showing the ownership tab? Sorry. That does. I appreciate the passive aggressive dunk. Yes, here's the ownership. Ted McMillan, 5,200. We just talked about him being a top value, really the only non-QB is a top value overall. 21% ownership expected to go his way. As I talked about, the Jacksonville matchup soft, really for both sides of the equation. One of the more obvious game stacking things, and ETR's data that they put out a video for from last year does encourage more double stacks, bringbacks, double bringbacks, onslaught builds of games, because basically those are not played as much by the field as opposed to the top 1% of top tournament lineups. So for Ted McMillan, I think he fits that theory pretty well because this game should be, you would think, pretty loose. We do have upgrades on offense for Jacksonville. And again, Ted just having a pretty big vacancy. Certainly Xavier Leggett, year 2, he should be better. He was a guy coming out of college. I thought there were some A.J. Brown similarities there. And good A.J. Brown, not one target on opening night A.J. Brown. So that's certainly a leverage that's there. If Leggett gets going, if Sanders gets going, if the run game gets there more with Chuba and Rico Dowdle, even though they want to run Chuba dry was the exact quote. I don't know what that means. They don't want to ring him dry. The point being for Ted McMillan, he's too cheap, I think, for the opportunity in this Carolina offense. He was a great target under Arizona. Obviously has great draft capital as well. Good yards after catch guy, good avoided tackle rate on pass plays as well. So Ted McMillan, I think, could be a game breaker here. At 5,200, as opposed to McCaffrey and Achane, I think I want to be at least be with the field on McMillan because he's priced really well and the upside seems pretty big. But I think being mindful of the fact that you want to get some Leggett, some Jatavian, some other ways there. Play that passing attack a little bit differently, maybe some stacks with it. Try to be mindful of that because McMillan could be pretty highly owned, especially for a rookie in week 1. Chase Brown looked like he'd be super chalk earlier in the week, but now 20% ownership. Still one of 4 guys over 20% owned. So Chase Brown certainly not an insignificant amount of ownership. Brown, the big thing for me is that the workload in the red zone in particular was as good as anybody in football on the home stretch of last season. Even with the beginning part of last year where he was sharing touches with Zach Moss, he still finished with 3.7 intended red zone touches a game. So that's really the big thing for running backs, having that opportunity to keep cramming the ball in the red zone over and over again. Saquon had 6 yesterday. He punched in one of them. That's sort of what you're hoping for these guys. And the PPR stuff, Chase Brown involved in the pass game meaningfully. You probably lose some third down work to Samaje Perine this year as opposed to last season. The end of last season where nobody was pushing him for snaps. This year he's going to lose a little bit, but still I think a very valid play, has some good touchdown equity, and we do expect Cincinnati to score a good amount of points given the fact they have that 26.3 implied total for week 1. And Brian Thomas, your 5th expected highest owned guy, 20% here. Mika Egbuka at 19. Brian Thomas, soft matchup versus Carolina. We'll see that green DVP number on the DraftKings app most likely. It's going to make Brian Thomas get played a good amount. Travis Hunter's role kind of uncertain in week 1 with the snap counts in the offseason. Liam Cohen has said it should be around 80%, but there's no real guarantee there. For Brian Thomas, I think that's the big concern for me. And it frankly didn't really pan out with CeeDee Lamb yesterday. When you have this guy who's going so highly, in best ball, first round stuff for CeeDee Lamb, for Brian Thomas, and you add in a variable like a true target owner next to him, like a Pickens, like a Travis Hunter, it does throw off the feng shui a little bit. And I think people missed last year that, Brian Thomas really had the big spikes when there's nothing left in that passing game and Mac Jones just spamming targets to him at a level I don't think is going to occur this year. But I still think Brian Thomas and cash would look good. Still think a tournament's getting some exposure makes sense because that soft matchup with Carolina. I just don't think at 6,800 he is like a lock button play by any stretch, and I think some people will treat him as such. But definitely McMillan and Brian Thomas, I would guess, get paired a good amount of a little intra-correlation and people trying to capture that shootout, and it'd certainly be logical to do so. Mika Egbuka, not too far behind Brian Thomas with 19% expected ownership. Egbuka, the best ball brain is going to be the highest for him because you have no Jalen McMillan. You have no Chris Godwin, obviously. I do potentially no Cade Otton as well, though we'll see how that one goes. For Egbuka, one thing I'll point out, and this is a depth chart thing, which doesn't always matter that much, but on the depth chart, Chris Godwin is listed as a starter and Mika Egbuka in a different spot. The direct backup based on the depth charts, Chris Godwin, is Sterling Shepard. So if Sterling Shepard somehow absorbs this partial Chris Godwin role, he's not very good. He didn't play incredibly well last year when the Tampa Bay wide receiver core was depleted, but he still earned targets fairly well. He's still a vet that it can do some things. If Egbuka fails, Sterling Shepard does anything useful at like 3K flat, I'll just say that out loud because Egbuka is one of those guys. I get people having the hype. I think he was a good target earner at OSU, but not really. To me, he grades out more like a less efficient Josh Downs, which is not really the kind of thing I'm dying to get week 1. I get the logic on PPR, though, at 4,600, nice price tag. It certainly versus Atlanta should be a high-scoring game script. I have no real issue with Egbuka, but again, really chalky ownership for week 1 rookies. Like I like Ted as well. If you were just to fade the week 1 rookies, I don't think that'd be an invalid thing to do. I think Uticow and Brick had said a similar thing on the stream they did with Pete earlier this week. People just own the week 1 rookies a little bit too much, and it's hard to kind of have these guys come in and immediately, have tournament winning ceilings in week 1. And that's, you could like the players a lot. You could like them in best ball. It could be a great run out in best ball. I'm just not as sold on being really overexposed to rookies, even if they are in pristine situations like Egbuka, to a lesser extent, Matthew Golden. Egbuka's so chalk, I'll stay away. Give me neighbors. And look, the Sims have taught us you could play good chalk. I just am not sold that Mika Egbuka is like necessary chalk. You could spend that money on tight end. You can do some different things. You could pay down a receiver. Year 2 guys also underrated. Quentin Johnson would be a great example of that. A guy who really broke out last year in fantasy, even though he was such dog shit left for dead. Year 1, Troy Franklin, I think this week at 3,500. Like I would play him personally over Torrey Horton because Troy Franklin can get there in one play. He can give you a 50-yard touchdown, and that's it. He did in the playoffs last year. And even that, like Troy Franklin, I don't want to play a ton. So I think for Egbuka, it's a lot of ownership, and that's really the main thing. We're going to go run some lineups now. Let me just keep scrolling down here. Anybody interesting to point out? Jalen Warren at 5,200, 10% owned. Bijan Robinson, high total here. A high price tag for him at 8K. He'll be 10% owned based on stochastic data. Nico Collins at 7,400 probably has to move up given the fact that Christian Kirk is out. But similarly, does open up some more opportunity for Jaden Higgins, for Jalen Noel to get on the field more in particular in the slot. But Nico at 9%, if I had to guess, with having some, the lack of a running game there, people respect the Rams offense. It's not a high total for Houston as of this morning. Their total is at 20.3 implied points. But Nico Collins should be the alpha here for the team and really the unquestioned number one target earner. So Nico, I think 9% feels light for him. I think he comes in closer to 15 to 20. But right now, stochastic has him at 9. Bucky Irving here at 8%. Obviously, I always like him. Kyron Williams at 6,500. He's 7% owned. Maybe not a great game script for him versus Houston's defense, which is pretty solid. But if Houston can't get the ball moving, Kyron Williams probably benefits. You got a lot of low-owned guys. That's really the main thing I would say here. When we talk about that chalk up top, there's a lot of credible plays. If you like the rookies, Ashton Jency not to be played very much. I'm not playing him either, but he's here. Kenneth Walker. A lot of guys under 10%. Gibbs under 10%. Christian Kirk still on here. So, yeah, the Nico number's not been updated adequately. Pearsall is at least not going to be super crazily owned, but having Juwan Jennings in, I think, is not a good thing for him personally. But he is leverage against, the Christian McCaffrey ownership. If you're playing a Niner stack, I would get it. Laporta under 5%. If you like Travion Henderson, probably still wouldn't play him week 1, but 3% owned for him. Jerome Ford could be the bell cow back for Cleveland in a game where they're going to want to keep the ball away from Cincinnati. He's at 3%. Marvin Mims playing all the outside snaps for Denver in the preseason. He's at 3%. There's a lot of credible guys here. So I can just keep listing them if you wanted, but we're not going to do that. Let's go to the solver next. Let's run this ETR data here. And let's run the cash game lineups first. So we'll see just what the pure optimal is to get a read on how the slate's going to look based on ETR's data. So no variance. 25 lineups. And I'll show you guys the portfolio tool again as well. I showed it on the Showdown video yesterday. But as I mentioned, I built a lineup yesterday with the Showdown portfolio tool on the solver, which allowed me to get a different mix of players. And it was actually a very nice process that I enjoyed a lot. It's probably something I'm going to use a little bit in this beginning part of the season. But I got 20 entries that were pretty well diversified, including one that was hovering around top 10 for a while. And it was totally unduped. That was the biggest part that surprised me. I think their portfolio tool here, Endgame Syndicate, is a similar one. Stochastic doesn't have one. That might be a big difference maker. If you're like me and you want to get in 20 entries good, you want to handle some amount in a 150 max, get in some amount of a portfolio that makes sense after that. I think the solver tool is really cool. So we're going to look at that in a moment as well. But right now, the optimal lineup, 147.2 projection is Jaden Daniels, and this is according to ETR's projections. Jaden Daniels, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Jerry Jeudy, Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, David Njoku, Christian McCaffrey, and Steelers D. So 2 Browns make it without the QB. Jaden Daniels makes it in here. So that's your cash game lineup you would play. Surprising to see 2 Browns in it, to be honest. But game script should be there, I guess, theoretically, for Flacco to throw a lot. For overall exposures in the top 25 lineups, again, only projection based, no variance on it. So it's just showing you what the projection math is going to drive people to. 100% McCaffrey, 100% Egbuka, according to ETR's data. So the projection for ETR is at 14.1. What was it for Stochastic? For Stochastic, it was at 14.2. So I'm curious to see how much Stochastic feeds his Egbuka as well. I just made my full-throated case against rookies week 1, and here ETR is saying that at least in cash games, Egbuka should probably be a play that's in your lineup. 100% ownership here. David Njoku, Jaden Daniels just behind, 96% ownership for those guys in the top 25. Jerry Jeudy at 92. So Jeudy, Jaden Daniels, Njoku, Egbuka, and Christian McCaffrey. Very clear, pronounced chalk for cash games according to ETR data. 22 of these lineups also have Jeudy and Njoku together. So again, pairing Flacco with that for tournaments will probably be a thing that gets done a lot. Game stacks, Higgins with Jeudy and Njoku coming up a good amount naturally in the projections. Jamar Chase coming up a little bit less. And team stacks, there's Cleveland everywhere. All right, now let's put the variance on. Let me also import my stack settings. We're just boosting everybody here. Not forcing stacks, though honestly, maybe could. I've got pretty big boosts on here. Let me increase the boost a little bit. So I want to try to get more bringbacks in. And onslaughts. Let's not go crazy on RB. Boost. Opponents, 20%. Let's see how this looks when we build 250 entries here. If you want to try out the solver, by the way, link in the description down below. Check it out. Promo code SPLASH on the solver. Good tool to get in the mix here. And I think that portfolio tool in particular is going to be a game changer for me this season in terms of getting in lineups fast that I feel good about my exposures in. So check it out. Solver. I'll keep the sticker up here. I got to make a new sticker for it. This is building slowly right now. What's the biggest number of entries in a contest you would use a cash lineup in? I wouldn't ever use a cash lineup in a big tournament unless you're doing one of the free ones on DraftKings. That I would. But cash game lineup is inherently, especially with ETR data, with stochastic data, it's going to get duped to death. You're not going to have any real first place equity using it. So if you're playing like a 12-man with your friends, I used to play 3-mans actually, I guess still might do it this year. We were doing like 2-man cash games because one of my friends dropped out last year. But if you're doing like a 3-man cash game with your friends every week, that's where you play your cash game lineup. But in actual tournaments, even 100-person, you're probably getting duped. What's the deal for my sheet? If you have a membership here, you'll get it on your YouTube community page and and on the Discord. I probably should charge more for it, but I don't want to rug pull anybody who's been a member for a few years. So if you're right now, Mike, you're a member, so you'll get it here. I'll post it on the Discord when I have it live, probably sometime tomorrow. I'll also post it in the YouTube community tab, so you'll see it on your homepage if you are a YouTube channel member. If you're not a channel member, Mike's setting me up for the plug, I guess. Join the Discord now. Again, $4.99 to join. Gets my data sheet and the premium video I do after this one. If you want to join one of the higher tiers and support the show even more, great. Please do that. But this is really the main perks we're going to get in season right now. You get the Discord access. You get my data sheet weekly, and you get a premium video for $5. So I think it's a good deal. I get $250 out of it. But it's mostly about getting you guys in here, building the community up in the Discord. So join there and stay tuned. I don't think I forgot to set up the redirect. I should do that now. Well, it's still building our lineups here. But I'll try to set up a redirect for this video to go to the premium one after this because I'm going to be going live on my data deep dive video the moment this ends. So what is the link for this? Here we go. We go in here, customize it, redirect. All right, cool. Redirect set up. Look at this guy producing on the fly. All right, so if you want to use the solver portfolio tool here, here's what I'd recommend. All right, so we don't have the big tournaments usually unless they're doing something different. No, so they don't build out a milli maker. What I usually like to do is take the biggest tournament possible. That's like a 150 max. That's usually the slant at $9. They pre-build 20,000 entries the field should have. And then we're going to diversify lineups as well. What we're going to do is allow this to make 20 lineup portfolios, as many as possible. So the solver, that means what it's going to do is build me 15 different portfolios of 20 lineups, and it's going to allow those to sort of, it'll have some crossover between the portfolios as well. What it tries to do is build like a diversified portfolio where, let's say you have Christian McCaffrey owns so much, the solver portfolio will try to give you McCaffrey X amount. Then when you're not playing McCaffrey, it'll give you maybe a Niner stack. It'll give you a similarly priced running back, but in a build that would look good with McCaffrey. That's what the portfolio does. When you build more portfolios with it, basically you're then able to see a bunch of different looks in terms of like a group of 20 lineups that you want. And that's what I did yesterday for the showdown because I had some hand-built lineups to put in the main tournament. Then I built some 20 max for the play action and just used the portfolio tool. What I did is I built 15 portfolios, just went through and looked at which ones had the exposures close to what I want, had lineups I felt good about. And it was a really nice change of pace. So I'm going to show you guys how that works in a moment here. But overall, the top sim lineups right now with the stack criteria I had, and shout out Mike for the super chat. I appreciate that bunch. I will have a week 1 beer on you. And Mike, make sure to join the Discord if you're not on there already. Link in the description. If you are a member of the YouTube and you're not in the Discord, just click the link in there and it'll add you automatically if your YouTube is synced up to your Discord. The top lineup right now, Baker Mayfield, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, Drake London, Cade Otton, Josh Jacobs, and Titans. So we have a triple stack here with the bring back. And part of the reason, too, why I did boost the stacks a little bit more, again, ETR is a great video. I posted in the Discord. It's on their channel. Was earlier in the week with Levitan, Leone, and Sam Brott, I think is his name, one of their data science dudes, who's doing some videos for him this year. They were talking about basically people are not playing enough. The top 1% of lineups more frequently have double stacks, have triple stacks, have a bring back with it, have two bring backs with it. People are under game stacking in these large field tournaments. And something too, for me, I know a couple years ago, and when I was still, I'm still doing stuff with Stochastic now, but back then with Stochastic, also at one point, Alex Baker had won a tournament. It was, I think, the Red Zone, the $100 one, where you're single entry. He had really overstacked one game. People were kind of blown away that he won that tournament. And it was one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, in high dollar tournaments, less correlate, or more correlation, less kind of lottery slot machine pulling makes sense. But the bigger tournaments, you probably want more slot machine pulling, more one-offs, more individual correlation. The reality is that if you hit on that nut game stack, people aren't there enough. They aren't stacking enough of those big game stacks. So certainly being mindful of your game stacks, like don't taking shitty teams, don't doing things like that is a big part of it. But overall, for how it looks right now, I want to get more of these mega stacks. I want them to be logical ones. And I'm not sure if having 3 receivers with it is like enough. Like it might be more like cap at 2 receivers sometimes. But being more open to these kind of builds where it's a pure Tampa Bay Atlanta game stack is something I think it's an important part of things. Having the running back in the flex as well. Another thing that data-wise is supported. Just being more open-minded to these kind of builds is a big thing. So this is the top lineup right now, according to ETR's data. Baker Mayfield, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Mike Evans, Mika Egbuka, Drake London are bring back. Cade Arton, part of that triple stack. Josh Jacobs and Titans D. And even if Bucky Irving went there, it might still grade out pretty well. It's data from last year's season. So every lineup that was in, I think, the Millie Makers last year, still small sample size, it's only 1 year, but it does fit larger macro themes as well. And all of Robert Griffin III's bringbacks with triple stacks with a single bringback. There you go. I think the week that Osmo won it, I think it was a Raiders, I believe, but it might have been Raiders Ravens. I don't know. Number 2 lineup here. Looks very similar, but it's a double with a bring back. So Baker, Mike Evans, and Mika Egbuka with McCaffrey, Tony Pollard. Drake London is a bring back again. Tucker Kraft is your tight end. Kyron Williams, another 3 RB in the flex, or third RB in the flex. And Titans D here going against the Broncos. The Titans D feels like the least appealing part for sure, but a defense is a defense. One takeaway as well from that ETR video where they went through all the data. Defenses that won the most or were in the top 1% the most, usually around 3K. That also kind of surprised me. I always thought it'd be paying down all the way at defense. But a lot of times the defense is more of a middle of the pack defense for what it's worth. And it seems like the sim is giving you just the cheapest one. This lineup here at number 3 is Joe Burrow, double stacked as well with Chase and Higgins. You have James Conner at RB, definitely a play I like a lot this week going against New Orleans. Christian McCaffrey in the 2 spot, Mika Egbuka. So he still made this lineup even though he's not stacked up. The Bengals double with Chase and Higgins, Jatavian Sanders, benefiting from the lack of Thielen / the lack of Coker. Jerry Jeudy looked like a very well-projected play according to ETR. And Titans D, yet again. Number 4 lineup, Kyler Murray, triple stack technically with the RB. So Kyler, James Conner, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride is a stack. Devon Achane is part of this lineup as well. Egbuka makes this one too. Shaheed makes this one. McCaffrey makes this one again. And Giants D makes it. Jaden just doesn't turn it over. I would have a hard time with that. And 5th, Joe Burrow, another Joe Burrow lineup here. Double stack again with Chase and Higgins, Jonathan Taylor, Jerome Ford. Again, I do like Ford. Bring back, I think it's kind of appealing as well. Trey Tucker, that is a low-owned, cheap guy for sure. Tucker mixing in outside. Amari Cooper retired, so if you're worried about that, you don't have to be anymore. Harold Fannon's on this team as well. Another Cleveland bring back. Christian McCaffrey, Raiders D. Raiders D versus Drake May. I think that's a more fun, cheap defense for sure. Am I doing showdown shows? I did one yesterday, Kevin. So yes, Monday and Thursday showdown shows. Not one for today, though. But I'll be on Stochastics Live before lock at 7:15 today. So you can watch that. But yeah, not doing one for today's slate because I have to do the main slate. Let's look at the portfolios real fast here. So you can see here different portfolios. And what it does is show you how much it's diversified according to each. The more it diversifies, usually the more the ROI will go down. You can find a sweet spot here, though, where this one's slightly diversified. This one's a little bit more diversified and has a higher ROI. Basically, you can see here in this overall swath of lineups, we have a lot of McCaffrey, a lot of Higgins, a lot of Egbuka. as you go through the portfolio, it's going to shift around a little bit. We're getting a shitload of Igbuka here with less diversity. 65% exposure to Igbuka, 50% to McCaffrey, 50 for Judy, 50 for Higgins, 45% for Giants D. Then we go down a little bit further. Oh, I don't want to change that. Portfolio 2, now we're getting 65% McCaffrey and Igbuka, 50% Higgins still, but less 50% guys overall. Portfolio 3 has McCaffrey, Igbuka at 65 and 60%. So these guys are coming up in all the portfolios up top so far without a lot of diversity. Giants D, a good amount, but under 50%. So you're starting to see the diversity kick in more, where the less, core plays, let's say, according to ETR's data, they're coming up less. Still a lot of McCaffrey and Igbuka here. I'm going to keep clicking through it until we get to one that's a little bit lower. McCaffrey and Igbuka again at 60 and 55%. So now when we get further down in diversity, we're finally getting away from McCaffrey and Igbuka a little bit more. Okay, now we're back on it. It doesn't work perfectly the way that I feel like it should, where it's like, I feel like as you go down the portfolios, you should be getting less and less and less of like the concentrated chalk, but it's not the way it worked for the showdown yesterday either. Here you're getting 40% Igbuka, 65% McCaffrey. So the sim is giving you some different lineups here that are not as Igbuka forward, which is what I would want to see if I were selecting my group of 20. This one's 60 and 50 for McCaffrey and Igbuka. I'm just going to keep going through all of them. Now we're down to 50 and 40 for McCaffrey and Igbuka, so we're really diversifying in a meaningful way here. And again, for me, because I'm less into McCaffrey and Igbuka, I just don't want to walk off the cliff for the chalky ownership. Hopping in here and taking this kind of build here where we just get less of those guys naturally, but still know we're getting top protected lineups. As you can see here, every lineup's still a positive EV in the sim ROI. You're getting more diversity at quarterback down the line as well. That's a positive, the portfolio stuff. Let's keep going down here. 45% and 40% Igbuka in this grouping. This one, 40 and 35. So now we're really getting off the McCaffrey, Igbuka beaten path. 40 and 35 here as well. This might be the lowest we get. No. Okay. So now here we are at portfolio 13. So this is why you build as many portfolios as possible. We're now at a spot where Igbuka is at 20% in here. McCaffrey is at 30% in here. So we've really diversified. We're definitely less concentrated on what ETR thinks are the best plays. But frankly, for me, that's how I want to build, because I know going in that ETR users are going to do a lot of very similar stuff. So that's how that goes. Scrolled me back up here. Sorry. Let's go to, where's I? 13. The 13 is the one we just looked at here. At 14, we're still getting 30% Igbuka, 25% McCaffrey. But the QBs are totally different here. We're not getting a ton of that, the Baker and Joe Burrow up top. And the last portfolio has 25% McCaffrey, 25% Igbuka. Really not a lot of crazy chalk ownership. Well distributed here with Connor and Achane, your high guys at 35. And you're really not getting those chalky, highly simmed lineups with Burrow and Baker we were seeing a ton of in the other ones. So again, if you're trying to get in 20, 150 lineups fast, this tool really excites me. And the fact that I had an unduped showdown lineup from it yesterday, I was really surprised by, and one that was good and like that was profitable. And at one point it was up to like $7,000. And it could have won 40K if things aligned the right way. I was really impressed with that by the solver. It's going to be a tool. I've always used Stochastic and the solver kind of in parallel of the build lineups that I want. But this year, to at least start the year, when I'm trying to get an entire slots for a tournament, I want to use the portfolio tools more, and I'm probably going to be doing that. So full disclosure, I think this tool is really sick. I'm going to be using it. So check it out yourself. And it's not like they're paying me to do it. I just get affiliate fees if you guys sign up. But I really think that tool is cool, and I wish Stochastic could do something similar. So Solver, link down below if you want to check it out. Their promo code SPLASH. Doesn't get you a discount, but it does support the show and gets you access the same way you would otherwise. So check it out. And yes, I actually am not crazy about Penix this week or Penis this week, but Penix, I think he's a valid enough play. I liked him more in best ball. For weekly DFS, he's not a priority QB play, but certainly I believe in Drake London a good amount. If Mooney doesn't play, especially, you kind of get that Nico Collins effect where it'd be a little bit hard to avoid London at that point. Mooney, a game time decision as well at the shoulder, but not crazy about Penix this week. Certainly if I get some, though, I wouldn't be mad about it. Projections, though, are really not too crazy about him. I think I believe in him more than the projections do. Be another way to put it. All right, Kyle Pitts, tight end 1. All right, CLN coming with the hot takes. But shout out to all you guys watching live here. Moving to Stochastic next. Stochastic, you do get a special deal here, 15% off in perpetuity. If you click the link in the description to head over there or use the promo code SPLASH when buying any Stochastic packages. And that includes the higher dollar ones. That includes the yearly ones as well. Even if you use one of their promos they have going, just click the link down below, then head over there because it supports the show. It's the biggest way I get enough revenue to keep doing this. So please do click those links. And some of you guys have been lately, and I appreciate that. Please keep clicking. Even if you make a new account, keep clicking it. Frankly, if you're on Stochastic, you've been a member before, use a new email and click the link down below. They don't care. they just want to get that money in. If they give half it to me, well, then we all win. We're going to build a Stochastic sim here, though. Unlike the Showdown, where they have 50,000 lineup sims now, Stochastic only has 10,000 for the main slate still. But obviously, main slate, there's less viable combos being played anyway, so shouldn't matter that much in terms of what we're seeing. But let's see what we get. I believe it's 33. Actually, it might be like closer to 40% to first, but I'll put 35 here. And let's run the sim. All right, data video coming up next, guys. So we got about 15 minutes here. Should I bring back the hand builds? Do people like that enough? The guy asked me yesterday about it on the or some guy asked me about it on the Showdown video. And I was like, I don't really want to do it this year, but because like it's extra time and I don't know that actually adds value. But let me know if you guys want to see me do a hand build and sim it out here on stream. I can keep doing it because I realized I didn't realize I did it every stream last year. Wasn't important enough to me. 30% to first? Whatever, 35 is fine. Love the handies. All right. One hand build won't hurt. Okay. All right, we'll try it. I'll do a sim. I also think, too, yesterday when we did the sim, I pointed out a shell that Stochastic was giving you really high ROI lineups for. I do think that shell was actually pretty close to correct. So be mindful of the Stochastic sim, even though I think the solver is doing some interesting stuff with that portfolio tool. Don't sleep on the Stochastic sim either and what it does. Historically, it's always been ahead of the curve on players like Tucker Kraft last year. I'll never fucking forget that. Or I was like, Tucker Kraft, why is he in every fucking lineup? And it's like, I didn't get it. And he ended up winning the that week and ended up being one of the most important plays in the slate. So when you see something weird from Stochastic, your mind may be like, I'm just going to throw that out because I don't believe it. But sometimes it does get some very helpful stuff in. Your top line, oh, this is fucking crazy. Your top lineup's a Tua triple. Tua Tagovailoa, Devon Achane, Alvin Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The team with the least buzz in the preseason, the most anti-buzz, I would say, in some respects, maybe besides the Jets. Ted McMillan, George Kittle, Emeka Egbuka in this one, Bucks D in this one. So fading the Bucks-Atlanta shootout, but still taking a receiver from it. All right. I like the solver one more so far, or those ones more so far. Number 2, Kyler Murray, Alvin Kamara, Tony Pollard. So some vet RBs with seemingly locked in roles. JSN, Marvin Harrison, Calvin Ridley, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Seahawks. So QB +2 with the bring back here with Kyler, Harrison, McBride, and then your bring back of Alvin Kamara. Yeah, sure. Tua Tagovailoa again at number 3. Wow. Okay, so the top 5 are all Tua and Kyler lineups. Tua, Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren, Malik Neighbors, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Trey McBride, Ted McMillan, and Seahawks. At number 4, we have Kyler, Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, Trey McBride, Matthew Golden, and Texans. And at number 5, we got Kyler Murray, Devon Achane, Tony Pollard, Malik Neighbors makes 1. Harrison again. I am shocked by this much Marvin Harrison. 3 lines with Marvin Harrison up top. All right. I mean, he had good touchdown scoring last year, but definitely a player that a year 2 guy. Ted McMillan, Trey McBride, Emeka Egbuka makes this one Seahawks. So it seems like you're also getting a rookie in pretty much every lineup as well. You got Egbuka here. No rookie in this one. Year 2 guys for sure. But you got Tet in this one. You got Matthew Golden in this one, Egbuka in this one. So Stochastic giving you some rooks. Tyreek Fader's going to feel really stupid soon. I mean, I'm one of them, so I hope you're wrong. But I don't. He wasn't the same player last year. He was objectively he was fed an ungodly amount and was incredibly efficient the year before last. This past year, he was less efficient, didn't get anywhere near the amount of touches. His target share was lower than Jonnu Smith, or roughly 1-to-1 with Jonnu Smith and with Devon Achane. Unless they meaningfully change the offense, I don't see the Tyreek Hill thing, but they could certainly rebuild the offense around him. I just don't know why, based on all the, if you're not following along this offseason, the team was really falling in love with him. He lost his captain, a C. He said he had to like make it up to the team. The team didn't fully forgive him. It's like it's not good vibes for Tyreek Hill, but sure, Stochastic's picking him. Go nuts. I just think like treating it like it's going to be like, these guys are going to rue the day. If that's the case, I'm going to rue the day because I have like one share of Tyreek. Seahawks D is your number one ROI player right now, 11% at 2,500. So Sims liking the Seahawks D, getting some direct leverage and all the Niners stuff. And like I mentioned, like the Seahawks D is pretty good. For year one under a new coach, Mike McDonald is previously regarded as like a boy genius defensive coach. Team that wants to run the ball a lot. Clint Kubiak they hired for that reason. So for the Seahawks D, I think they're a play that gets underappreciated where the Niners could just be bad if McCaffrey is hurt. Things don't go their way. And also, too, a lot of those receivers not being in camp, like Juwan Jennings, that could hurt. We saw the Eagles be a little bit sluggish after not playing their starters in the preseason. Things like that can matter more than I give credit for. Tet McMillan at number 2, Tetaroa, if you want to say the correct name. But I still say Tet. I don't give a shit what he and his mom think. He doesn't call me by a name. I'm not calling him by what he wants. 9% ROI for Tet here, though, at 5,200. Again, too cheap of a price tag. The two rookies, the Sims and ETR, want to give you Tet and Emeka Egbuka. Play him, don't play him. I think McMillan would be the bigger play to me. Number 3 is Egbuka, 7% ROI for him. Jalen Warren, your number 1 back for Pittsburgh. Low scoring game versus the Jets, but certainly two teams that should run the ball a pretty good amount. Warren as well. Check downs from Aaron Rodgers going to be plentiful in full point PPR. Not a bad play at 5,500. George Kittle, 3% ROI for him. Trevor Lawrence, 2.5%. Raiders, a positive ROI. Bucks, a positive ROI. And Kamara at running back, a positive ROI. So a good amount of people getting positive ROIs here, notably absent Christian McCaffrey. So we'll see how much they give us in the top 150. Highest exposed. Whoa, okay. Stochastic, big stands on the rookies. 61% exposure in the top 150 lineups to Tet McMillan. 45% exposure to Emeka Egbuka. So almost 3x the field on McMillan. Almost 3x the field on Egbuka as well. Alvin Kamara, 41% in the fields at 17.6. So another about 3x the field stand there. Actually, a little bit less than that, but still pretty meaningful stand for Alvin Kamara, more like a 2x and change. Kittle, 37% fields at 13. So really big stands by Stochastic week 1. Trey McBride, 2x the field and change here. 37% exposure, fields at 16. Devon Achane, 35, fields at 22. Jalen Warren, 31, the fields at 10. So another 3x the field stand there, more than that. And Seahawks D, 6x the field, 30% exposure, fields at 5. All right, where are the biggest fades? T. Higgins, not popular here. ETR was loving the Bengals double. Stochastic, not so much. T. Higgins, 3% exposure, fields at 12. Josh Jacobs, 2% exposure, fields at 11. I don't mind Jacobs as a play. I definitely was fiddling with him in some lineups before, just because of the fact that I think it's a game where versus Detroit, punching it in from the goal line for Jacobs seems like a pretty likely outcome here, but he's getting faded by Stochastic with only 2% exposure. Puka Nacua, only 3% exposure. Houston's defense is pretty good, but Puka, one of the best targeters in football last year. Jamar Chase, 10% exposure, fields at 18. So Stochastic under on both Bengals guys with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Cortland Sutton, a light fade on him, 5% fields at 12. Kenneth Walker, they're barely playing, only 1% exposure, the fields at 6. Okay. Well, too much wish casting on the lower end QBs and Stochastic's data. I don't think the data is wish casting. I think that's a silly way to say it. I think the data is really more reflecting that it feels that Bengal stacks get a little bit overowned, and that you can also build in ways that save you money without giving up all the, moderate upside by playing more of the mid-tier guys like McMillan, like Egbuka would be more my guess. But it is a difference between the two sites for sure. ETR people, if I had to guess, will get a lot more Bengals doubles. Stochastic people, it seems like, going to be getting, again, more of those mid-tier QBs. You're not getting like Spencer Rattler up top, but you're getting Trevor Lawrence, you're getting Purdy, getting Jaden. On Sunday's Final Takes video, we will look at every QB stack. That's one of the things I just like to do on a Sunday video. So stay tuned for that. For now, though, just out of curiosity, here's your top Jaden ones. Can't not cover Jaden. Jaden single stack, Jaden McCaffrey, Kamara, Egbuka, Debo, Tet McMillan, George Kittle, JSN, and Jets D. Doesn't make me feel a whole lot here, but I do like the Debo stack part of it. Debo scoring 2 touchdowns in week 1 would not be a shocker to me. Let's single lineup sim it out here. We'll build one last team, all hand built here. And if you can, hit that like button, subscribe. If you want to use these tools, go to Stochastic, Link down below, promo code SPLASH. The link will also take you right there, and you have to enter a promo code, but 15% off that Stochastic. Even if you use some of their promos going right now, the attribution goes to the channel, and it does help out the show here, so please do click it down below. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see more of the screen. All right. I'm going to go with the guys I feel have gained the most so far. We'll see how the sim feels about it. Nico Collins losing Christian Kirk, I think, is a pretty big deal. Kirk, I expect to be a meaningful part of this offense to start the year. Now he's not going to be. I think you're going to have to throw it versus the Rams a little bit. Not sure I want to do a Rams stack with it or in a full Houston Rams game stack. What's the Houston matchup here? Total's not great. 20.3 implied for Houston, like I mentioned earlier. 23.3 for the Rams. Houston's D last year, negative 0.05 EPA per dropback, negative 0.06 EPA per pass. Good versus the run as well. Low completion rate allowed as well. Low catchable ball rate, one of the lowest marks in the league there. It's 75% catchable ball rate. Yeah, I don't love the. I'm not going to do the game stack for them. Who would I want a game stack? Look, I believe in McMillan. Let's do it that way. Tet McMillan, come on down. Double stack with Tet and something. Tet and Leggett. Triple stack with Sanders. See how this works. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm doing a Jacksonville, Carolina game stack. I got to figure out what the Carolina part's going to be. Or what the Jacksonville part's going to be, rather. But I will go here. I'm going to go Bryce. Got the double. ATN or Bigsby? Or I could go like a Brenton Strange. I don't mind that. Brenton Strange at tight end. So at RB now, he can play pretty much whatever we want. Bijan Robinson, great goal line role. Oh, we do something weird here. Two guys who have dominant red zone roles for their teams in a game we expect to be high scoring. I'm going to go with Bijan and Bucky in this team. Let's pick the DST first. Again, keeping in mind that winning or top 1% defenses were normally around the 3K range. So you want to pick out of this middle tier. Packers D versus Detroit feels risky. Jets D versus Aaron Rodgers. They probably know him better than most if we're going to do really flimsy kind of stuff. I could take my anti-Miami fade here and go with the Colts D. I don't mind the Raiders versus Drake May. Where was that priced? Yeah, Drake May, I feel like pulls shitty plays out of his ass, no pun intended, a good amount. So I'll go Raiders D here and just fade the love that people have had for New England in particular in best ball. And then the flex, we now have 6,500 left. Could do, could also do Atlanta here. Could do another Atlanta with Drake London. Could also do Brock Bowers on top of it. This is a tough call. T. Higgins, if I want to get some shares of the Bengals offense. But I'll go more of a game stack. So basically 2 game stacks here and Nico Collins. Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson. Let me make sure I got large contest, 35% the first. So the team right now, we'll see what it sims as. Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving. So 2 RBs in the same game, something we wouldn't normally do a lot, but that also will decrease the ownership, and the negative correlation I don't think is that huge. It's negative 15% ROI. Nico, Tet McMillan, Leggett, Brenton Strange, Drake London, Raiders D. I also really didn't give Stochastic anybody it likes a lot, so that could be part of it. But if I switch this, let's go. Let's fucking here. McCaffrey. Here's Stochastic. You love McCaffrey. Here's McCaffrey. Oh, Stochastic. You love Devon Achane. Here's Devon Achane. I feel like I'm feeding Luca. All right. Oh, Stochastic. What do you like here? Oh, you want to eat? Oh, what are you going to eat? Oh, okay. You'll eat Bucky Irving a little bit now, maybe? Sure. Bucky Irving, come on down. Maybe upgrade the defense too for them. This is also part of why I hate doing the single lineup sims, because like, what I have to submit my team for the Sims approval. It's bullshit. We We got 2,900. Niners D, I guess. You know what? It did like the Seahawks D. That's a good point. So we'll leave 400 on the table. Go Seahawks D. Any upgrades on Bucky? No, literally no upgrades on Bucky. There's nobody at 7,500 to play. All right. Let's sim it out. So we gave the sim. Oh, no, but we have McCaffrey with Seahawks D. That's not going to work. I should have caught that. That's my bad. I listened to spurious news blindly. But we swapped the RBs. Yeah, we can't do defense versus RB. They're never going to like that. Instead of taking the Seahawks D out, let's take out McCaffrey. The sim may support that more. All right, what do you want sim at RB? 7,700. I mean, low-owned Jahmyr Gibbs instead feels kind of fun, actually. So let's try that. And if this isn't positive, I give up. And I'm going to go do data deep dives. I could talk for an hour over in Excel. So stay tuned for that. If you're a premium member of the channel, you get redirected automatically. You get negative ROI still. So the sim not loving this game stack of Carolina, Jacksonville. But Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane, Nico Collins, Tet McMillan, Xavier Leggett, Brenton Strange, Bucky Irving, Seahawks D. I like the team more than they do. I like the first team I built the most because I think we had some nice correlation there for games that I expect to go off this week. But look, you know, Uticow, I'm not Uticow. You guys aren't Uticow, but he's one of the top DFS players. He has said before in content that, like, in general, he doesn't like his lineups to be too highly graded in the sim. If they're like slightly negative or slightly positive, that's generally where he wants to be. So if you feel like you're a delicate genius, like the best DFS player in the world and me, you know, then we could just say, whatever, the lineup is still valid. But I think sometimes the sim just doesn't like stuff because sims are feeding you back ultimately, you know, their median projection data. So I'm not surprised to see it be negative, but if you want to build a positive one, you saw what the positive lineups are, you build one like that. But that's the video for this week, guys. My splash plays for the week I'm going to give you guys in a moment. Before I do, though, one last call for all the plugs. Number one, 15% off on Stochastic. Link down below. Get any package on there, whether it's data, sim stuff, all of it, the cheap stuff, the expensive stuff. It's all 15% off. Even if they have better deals going on the site right now, click the link in the description, take their deal there, and it'll still attribute, and you'll get some money off from me anyway. Subscribe, hit the like button. You guys know the deal here. Of course, doing the work on this channel for Monday, showdown video, Thursday, showdown video, main slate, Friday, Sunday, final takes video. And I'm also going to be on Stochastics live before lock tonight for the showdown. People want that content. My showdown takes, I'm going to give that there. I'll also be on the live before lock show on Sunday on Stochastic with my pal Eric Lindquist. So this guy, I'm sure, will be making a return there on stream on Sunday, but also hour and a half with me on Sundays on Stochastic. So literally, fucking Christ, I'm doing two and a half hours of content on Sundays. So you're going to get a lot from me this year, guys. But as I've said yesterday, my goal is to give you guys really my full view on things, to not hold back. If I think a team like the Cowboys isn't good, I'm going to tell you that. I'm not going to just couch it in their DFS speak like I think the tendency is to do, because we understand at this point, hopefully, if you watch this channel, it's all a world of multiple outcomes. You get things right, like I felt like I did yesterday, but still get it wrong because the Cowboys scored 2 touchdowns that are kind of flimsy. It's how football works, but you go in, have a belief, and hopefully it'll pan out. And that's what I'm going to be trying to bring to you guys more this year instead of soft footing it around. But I appreciate you guys being here. Let's get going on the data video. So stay tuned there if you're a premium member. And if you're not, join the channel. You'll get access. Discord, $5 to join. Get my weekly data sheet, my weekly premium video, and also a great Discord to be a part of. So come hang out in there. I'll see you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Watch some of my stuff here. It won't let me fucking scroll down again. I swear to God, the audio didn't fuck up on StreamYard today, but now it won't let me scroll to the exit part. There we go. Okay. If I move something around, it apparently lets me scroll again. I'm now going to hit the outro, guys. Data deep dive coming up. See you there. Good luck. Enjoy your weekends. Hopefully see you here on Sunday. And bye-bye, guys.